Under the cover of night, the palace was torn apart by a vivid flash of blue and white lightning, followed by a torrential downpour. The palace lay like a giant beast, nestled between heaven and earth, patiently awaiting something. Oldley massaged his sore arm, as the continuous rain had caused his rheumatism to flare up once again. The exhibition plan had been set since the beginning of the year, including several rarely seen national treasures. However, the sudden heavy rain brought about many uncertainties for the protection of these artifacts. If the exhibition were postponed or cancelled due to weather conditions, the long-awaited visitors would leave disappointed. Oldley was filled with worry, yet he remained dedicated, meticulously inspecting every piece of equipment and power source within the exhibition hall. He believed that the experts at the museum would make the most comprehensive arrangements for the artifacts. As a long-standing member of the palace, he keenly felt the weight of his responsibilities. Just then, a dark figure slowly appeared in the grand hall. At first, Oldley thought it was a lighting issue, but the figure became increasingly clear, ultimately taking on a living pattern. The dark figure rose to its feet, joints emitting a clicking sound. From the silhouette of the figure, it resembled a living skeleton. "Who?" Oldley instinctively shouted, attempting to drive away the mysterious individual playing tricks. However, apart from his own breathing, there was no other sound within the exhibition hall. Oldley furrowed his brows, illuminating the entire hall with his flashlight, searching every dark corner. Yet, his gaze never veered away from that shadow. Oldley knew, having worked here for over a decade, that he was intimately familiar with every nook and cranny of the exhibition hall. Thus, he no longer deceived himself and confronted the mysterious figure, reaching out to touch a column. Miraculously, as his hand made contact with the column, the dark figure gradually disappeared. The elderly night guards had once mentioned that some peculiar images indeed appeared within certain palaces of the Forbidden City, particularly during thunderstorms. According to expert speculation, this may have been due to lightning stimulating the iron oxide within the palace walls, creating a video-like effect that records past scenes and plays them back under proper conditions. Could this enigmatic shadow also be the product of the same phenomenon? Oldley rubbed his eyes, deliberating whether to report this strange encounter. His tense nerves gradually relaxed, and as he turned to leave the exhibition hall, he suddenly halted his steps. The shadow on the wall reappeared, even more distinct than before. A loud thud sounded as his flashlight fell to the ground. Without a second thought, Oldley hastily rushed out of the hall, stumbling along the way. Upon returning from his honeymoon, Zhou Ning found himself confronted with a rather bizarre case at the police station. While seemingly trivial, the fact that this incident took place in the Forbidden City turned even the slightest disturbance into a major event. However, this particular case did not result in any actual damage, and even its authenticity was called into question. The only witness was an elderly retiring palace worker. Though his colleagues unanimously regarded him as honest and reliable, Zhou Ning still leaned towards considering it a misunderstanding. Nevertheless, in order to ensure clarity, he decided to personally investigate the scene. Monday was the day when the Forbidden City was closed to the public. After coordinating with the security personnel inside the palace, Zhou Ning stepped into the world's largest and best-preserved palace complex just as the sun was setting. He chose this time partly due to the absence of tourists, minimizing any disruptions at the scene. Additionally, the night watchman had just started his shift, providing a relatively familiar and relaxed environment to potentially recreate the events of that night. Not long after, an elderly worker accompanied by the security personnel approached. He was a man in his 50s, thin and of average height, with white specks peppering his hair. Despite his age, he stood tall with sharp, piercing eyes, indicating his alertness and vitality. "Hello, Officer Zhou. This is Laoli from our security department. He is a veteran who transferred to our institution after serving in the military," the security personnel introduced. "Laoli, Officer Zhou will be in charge of investigating the strange incident you encountered a few days ago. I hope you will cooperate with him," the security personnel said before leaving, perhaps mirroring the department's skepticism towards the case. the management of the Forbidden City also harbored doubts. Separated from his familiar colleagues, Lao Li appeared somewhat uneasy, keeping his head down and occasionally glancing at Zhou Ning, seemingly wanting to speak but hesitating. Observing this, Zhou Ning took the initiative to start the conversation. "So, you are a former military personnel. No wonder your colleagues speak highly of you." Zhou Ning initiated. "Officer, have you already spoken with my colleagues and superiors?" Lao Li no longer concealed his concern, wearing a forced smile. "Yes," Zhou Ning nodded. "Do they think I am lying?" Lao Li's voice was not loud, yet each word was clear and firm, revealing a resolute determination. "Lao Li, rest assured that nobody in the institution doubts you. It's just that what you witnessed was indeed too extraordinary to be deemed a natural phenomenon. However, if it was an act committed by humans, you would undoubtedly have a better understanding. The possibility of anyone successfully eluding the layers of security within the Forbidden City and performing magic tricks is practically zero. Furthermore, what purpose would there be in doing so?" After a few exchanges, Zhou Ning felt that Lao Li was genuinely a sincere person, so he opened up about his suspicions without reservation. "Yes, I also can't make sense of it," Lao Li replied, perplexed, shaking his head with some hesitation. A moment of silence ensued between the two. Before long, Zhou Ning had followed Lao Li in inspecting several palaces and exhibition halls. Despite the darkness descending, Lao Li moved skillfully and confidently, calmly navigating the labyrinthine palaces and corridors without hesitation. The echoes of their footsteps reverberated within the empty palace walls, the sound not loud but still clear. As they passed through the corridors,